That's why you couldn't see it. That was my fault. Hello, everybody. I know it's 12 midnight. Hello, hello, hello. The enemy. The enemy tries to step in no matter what. But guess what? This season is about being obedient. Hey, everybody. I was so geeked sitting down. I wasn't even supposed to be saying that until the music stopped. That is my very own intro music. Once me and my husband and my son sit down and think of an intro, we'll have something to go with it. But I can say I own the copyrights to that music. So hello, everybody. Yes, it's 12 midnight. This season is about being obedient, and so I have been commissioned to come here every day for a message, to deliver a message, and I have already allowed the enemy to, for 3 days, have me paralyzed to not do what God has commissioned me to do. And so these messages for yesterday, today, and tomorrow will be on that. We cannot allow the enemy to win, especially when you are on assignment. So, hi, it's me. I am Shar Young. I am a kingdom entrepreneur, newly, an inspirational speaker, and I love acronyms. I promise you. Actually, I used one yesterday, so we'll get to it. But you guys will start understanding why I love acronyms. They define some very important moments, especially during this walk. So, my husband refers to me as the hood's intercessor, and I am okay with that because I interpret that to mean that I help women who are ready. Keyword ready to shed their pre-Jesus season so they can be ignited in their post-Jesus season. So I help women who are ready, keyword ready, to shed their pre-Jesus season so that they can be ignited into their post-Jesus season, because I believe that is where the magic happens. At least for me it has, and I believe that every woman should feel this type of magic, should experience it. I do. It's amazing. God is amazing. But I want women to see their shadow in mine, but I also want you to see your light shine through my light, to know that rebirth and transformation is possible. I promise I am a living witness. So, first of all, allow me to speak to the replayers, those that catch us sometime after the live is ended. Hello, I appreciate you all as well. But today's message comes from yesterday's message, which is coming from two verses in the Bible. The first being Deuteronomy 2:7, which reads, God, your God, has blessed you in everything you've done. He has watched over your journey through this vast wilderness, these 40 years. The Lord, your God, has been with you, and you have not lacked anything. Deuteronomy 2:7 reads, God, your God, has blessed you in everything you have done. He has watched over your journey through the vast wilderness. These 40 years, the Lord your God has been with you, and you have not lacked anything. The second verse, John 10:10, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it more abundantly. So, in reference to Deuteronomy 2:7, even though the Israelites ended up in the wilderness due to their obedience. So the Israelites ended up in the wilderness due to their disobedience. God did not leave nor forsake them. He instead gave them everything they needed. It may have not been what they wanted, but it was every single thing they needed. He gave them everything that they needed to fight their battles. He gave them food. He gave them land. And what's so special about this story, which Deuteronomy summarizes kind of the events that took place in this era, is summarized by Moses. But the ironic thing is that God, even though they were disobedient, again, they lacked nothing, out in the wilderness, and just being disobedient, and not only they're already seeing signs and miracles, signs and wonders, but they still just being disobedient, not believing. And so because of that, there were harsh punishments, but God still gave them the things that they needed. Food, again, what things to fight their battles and whatever land. He gave them things, even being disobedient. They lacked nothing. The things they needed, he definitely gave it to them. I really encourage you to read the whole book of Exodus to get the point. I went over it. Or did I go over Exodus yet? I may not have, but to get the gist of it. It's the story of how God sent the people of Israel through a series of hardships. So the book of Exodus is a story about how God sent the people of Exodus through a series of hardships where they had to wholeheartedly put their faith in God through Moses, through man. So these people had to trust God through a man. So that's like you sitting next to somebody and you putting your faith, you trusting that your fate, whatever that is in this another human's, well, in this time, another person's hands, right? And people just today, back then, they were hard-headed just like we are now. And they like, put my faith. You want me to trust a man through you? You want me to believe that this man, this higher being is telling you what to do for our well-being? So again, people were, of course, some disobeyed. It's human nature. That's just the way it works. That the saying nobody is perfect. That's basically, what that's saying. There will always be people to disagree and disobey and don't have faith. But there will always be people of the opposite as well. So there will always be people with no faith, unfortunately, and there will always be people to disobey. But on the flip side of that, there will also always be people that do have faith. There will always be people that will profess their love for God. They will profess the miracles, signs, and wonders that they've either seen or experienced. So it works both ways. But through those hardships that the people of Israel were experiencing, the tests, the trials, in Exodus, they added 40 years to their journey that would have only taken 2 weeks. So because they were disobedient, again, they lacked nothing. But because of their disobedience and not lack of faith, what would have taken them 2 weeks took them 40 years. That amazes me every time I say that, because we've all had a time when we've been in our own wilderness and not seeking God. We just not seeking him. We don't believe that what we're going through, nobody. We just, woe is me. Nothing can get me through it. Not even God. And I've been there, even me. Yes. And sorry, that was a net, guys. It's really a foolish way of thinking, because that is just so not true. But this is when we're lost. Everything is chaotic in life. So this is when we're lost, when we're believing that nothing can be done, that God can't pull you through a thing. Everything is chaotic in the moment. I know in my season of being in the wilderness, God was looking out. In every season of the wilderness, God was looking out. I lacked nothing. I was lost, but I lacked nothing. Making drug transactions, things that could have landed me far away from my children, stripping, things that could have landed me not even here, could have been just a whole different outcome, not here, right here. I mean, right now, basically, it just things could have been so different from the choices that I was making in the wilderness. So again, I didn't want anything to do with a person as far as a relationship with was if you didn't sell drugs. It's funny, me and my husband was just talking about this, because we were talking about how people with jobs are more responsible and they're a little more closed-fisted when it comes to irresponsibly spending, not just splurging because you can, because when you work for it, it takes longer to make. You're not making drug transactions where you getting a day's pay in 2-3 hours, right? So it's just funny. I didn't want to, and I knew that, I understood that, and that's the very reason why I only was interested in people that were illegally making money. Because anything I wanted, it was, we can go to the mall, we can do impromptu shopping trips, impromptu trips, period. Like they just had money to irresponsibly spend on the fly, but people who worked, they couldn't get with that. And I understand that. That money is it takes a little more time to make. So, but again, lost in the wilderness, I lacked nothing. During those times, again, things could have went so different, but God chose to save me. God chose to bring me, watch me, have angels surrounded all around me in these times, and bring me out of that thing. And again, what's ironic is, because at the age of 40, not exactly 40, but around that time, I was 39 when my doctor came to me and told me, "Hey, Tamiko, I'm glad you was able to join. I figured it out just for you." Um, um, what was I saying? My goodness, I'm so happy she joined because she wanted to. That made me lose my track. What was I talking about, babe? You remember? Who? Oh, the doctor. Thank you, babe. So when the doctor made me retire, I was about 40 years old. And again, I'm relating the significance of the people of Israel being in their exile for 40 years because of their disobedience. So the significance of this is, I started to shed. This is when I started to shed the pre-Jesus me, around the time I had to retire, because who else can you depend on at 40 years old, being told that you can never work again because of an illness? So again, who else do you depend on, being told at 40 years old that you can no longer work a physical job? Who else could I lean on? Who else? It was many times, again, that God, me in my wilderness, God could have chosen much different outcomes for me. Much different. So, but again, God was watching over me. Like the time when I sat next to a guy whose 2 bullets unalived him. And I say that word because these platforms, they don't like you to say certain words. So the bullets unalived him. They exited. His exit wounds were in my headrest, in my wilderness. God, no, there's no way nobody can tell me that it wasn't anyone but God, because I just so happened to be sitting, my feet on his dashboard, my head just up off of his headrest, only because in that time I was very vain. Again, I come here to be very transparent. I was very vain. I had no interest in this man. I blamed myself for years. I did. But it was only because I felt like, because my head was turned and I just wasn't paying him any attention. But however, whatever, now that I know I've made peace with that thing, God, when it's your time, it's your time. It's nothing anybody can do. But God brought me through that thing with my head off the headrest, just in the exact moments, though. In the exact moments that he was shot. My head just happened to be off the headrest. Again, in my wilderness, God brought me through that thing. So, God was watching over me through the whole journey, waiting on me to get a clue, because he gives you a choice. I've talked about this in a few other videos. He gives you a choice. He waits on you. He waits on you. He gives you a choice. But the thing is, we can't take advantage of that because no one knows the day nor the hour. That's the thing that we need to get. In the way things are going, the pandemic, just people losing people, just life. Because, that's what's going to happen. We're going to live and we're going to die. So, this whole pandemic really, really kind of got me together. But here's where I'm gonna kind of end it because it's late. But what I came on here to talk about though is allowing the enemy to paralyze you. I'm on assignment. I talk about this all the time. This season is about being obedient. So here I am coming to you guys, being transparent daily, and I allowed for a situation to paralyze me to not do the Father's work. You gotta let that sink in. Nothing should have that much dominion over you, that much power. Nothing. Nothing. For 3 days, I allowed the enemy to paralyze me, to choke me, to steal, because the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I allowed the enemy to come in, not knowing, how dare me, because I don't know what God got, what he has planned for me tomorrow. And just imagine something happening. You know you on assignment, and something happens, and then boom, you in heaven. What you gonna tell God? Because she made me mad. He made me mad. This situation irritated me. Ain't gonna be good enough. Ain't gonna be good enough. And so when I left that thing in the intercessor's hands and they brought me through that thing, I prayed, they prayed, and we prayed again for our separate assignments. God lifted that thing off of me and made me realize this message that I am telling you. I have some nerve. I don't know the day nor the hour. If God is telling you to do a thing, if it's on your heart to do a thing, whether that is to apologize to somebody, speak to someone, get over a thing, forgive somebody, do that thing. If God is putting that thing on your heart, who are we to allow the devil to come in, the enemy to come in and take away what God has put on your heart to do? Who are we to think that we even have that kind of time? And I say that because of the things God has brought me through. I know I've been in some situations where that could have been it. And because I let a thing get me so upset, I'm just going to let him come and, steal, kill, and destroy. And all of these years I was in this wilderness, God done brought me all out of these things that could have taken me out. And here this thing is not even life-threatening. But I allowed it to choke me so bad, paralyze me so bad. I allowed it to come and steal, kill, and destroy, just what the enemy does in Deuteronomy 2:7. Oh, I'm sorry. John 10:10 is the enemy comes and steal, kill, and destroy. I'm talking a little too fast, my bad. But I allowed the enemy to do just what it does in John 10:10. I allowed the enemy to come in and stop what God told me to do. And again, we got to get out of this pride thing. Pride eases God out. One of my acronyms, not my acronyms, but one of my favorite. This is from Reverend Thomas T.V. Pettis at our church. Your ego eases God out. Your ego is your pride. You are easing God out of whatever it is that you got going on because you are telling the enemy that God can't handle it. And that's what I did for 3 days for an assignment that God had given me. And I gave dominion to the enemy. I eased God out. I allowed my pride to ease God out. And he was with me in the wilderness. Brought me out of that thing. Now that's Deuteronomy 2:7. He was with me all of these years. And another thing, we can't think that every day is going to be a bowl of cherries, because it's not. Yes, he gave me them 17 things in my husband. Yes, he did. 17 out of 18. I manifested them in a year. We got married in the middle of a pandemic. Nobody got sick. Nobody. That's one of the best times of my life. One of the best moments of my life, right? So that thing happened. But then you have obstacles. This is an everyday progression. You're not going to get everything you want when you want it. But trust me when I tell you God delivers. If you are praying on that thing, he in the background already, he done worked it out. We allow the enemy's destruction to keep us from getting God's instruction. We allow the enemy's destruction to keep us from getting God's instruction. I just said something to myself. Wow. We allow the enemy's destruction to keep us from getting God's instruction. That was powerful. And I think I'm going to end it right there. We have to stop allowing our pride to ease God out, our ego. We gotta get our ego out of the situation, because in these times, God wants your stories because people are hurting. These are the times most where people don't believe in God. They don't want to go to church. They're suffering. They can't understand what is happening around them. They need to know, though, that God has brought people through things, and the blood still works. So again, we have to remove our pride, stop allowing our ego to ease God out, which is our pride. Stop allowing the enemy to introduce destruction, to keep us from getting the instruction from God. Guys, I don't know what God is doing in this season. I really don't. I don't. But what I do know is I don't want him to do it without me. I don't know what God is doing in this season. But what I do know is that I don't want him to do it without me. So I really encourage you to read the book of Exodus. I really encourage you to read the book of Exodus. And then the two verses that we talked about yesterday and today is Deuteronomy 2:7, which reads, God, your God, has blessed you in everything you have done. He has watched over your journey through this vast wilderness. These 40 years, the Lord your God has been with you, and you have not lacked anything. The second one verse is John 10:10. It reads, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it more abundantly. That's another thing. If God delays what you've prayed for, it isn't denial. It's just that he has something better. If God delays what you've prayed for, it's not that he's denied it. It's just delayed for something bigger and something better. Trust me when I tell y'all. So boldly step out and tell people what God has brought you through. Again, people are hurting. People need what you are going through, and they need to know that God has brought you through. People need what you're going through, and they need to know what God has brought you through. So you were made for such a time as this. You and me, we were made for such a time as this. I really encourage you, again, if you're needing God to do a thing, to start seeking him. Matthew 6:33, start there. And then venture off into the verses that, the other verses in all of my videos up until this point. It's a plethora of them. Remember, all Bible verses work dependently together. So you will be able to put together, stories, or you'll even start digging deeper if, once you get into it. So we all start somewhere. Remember, I did too, I promise you. And I'm still new to reading the Bible. It's just that every book you can relate to something in every single book. So you're not going to get through it fast. Because for one, you're supposed to be learning it anyway. And then for two, again, every book is something to either reread and go through, or you're relating to it. So you want to reread it. So if this has helped you or someone you may know, please share it. Hit subscribe, follow, or, for whatever social media that this is showing up for you on. Again, I don't know what God is doing in this season, but I do know I don't want him to do it without me. A few apps: Bible for Women and Daily Studying, the Study Bible, which has a few different transcriptions, such as the Message Bible and the New Living Testament. Again, that is the Study Bible and the Bible for Women in Daily Studying, which has a few different transcriptions. So just be really careful with that, because the words have been changed over time, and you just want to be careful because it can make the meaning mean something different. So what I suggest is a King James version of the Bible, and then your New Living Testament app, or even there's New Living Testament Bibles, the physical copy, or the Amplified Bible app or physical copy, either or, and then the New King James version, so that you can be able to understand what they were saying in the New King James version after it's interpreted in one of those easier to interpret transcriptions. And also, anything by Charles Stanley is phenomenal. Anything by Charles Stanley is phenomenal. Remember, as I close, I am telling you all of this not to impress you guys. I come here to be transparent with these stories. I come here to be, encouragement, especially again in these times. We need God. We need to know that we can get through it. We need to know that we can get through it. We need to know that other people are going through it. People like me and you. People don't like to come here and do stuff like this because it makes you vulnerable. But again, I'm on assignment, and this season is about being obedient. So again, I don't do it to impress you or to brag. I do it to impress upon you that you have the same access to the kingdom as I do. I do it to impress upon you that you have the same access to the kingdom as I do, and the next saved person, I promise you, if he saved me, he heard my cries, he hears yours too, and he will save you too. I promise. Until tomorrow, I love you all, and good night.